A husband's revenge on his wife and her lover. I'm a normal, average husband who adores his wife and 2 kids. I'm a typical middle-class white guy, 180 centimeters, 80 pounds, who doesn't act like a bull but never complains either. I have a good job in sales, and my family doesn't usually need anything. My wife Ann and I have been together for 8 wonderful years. To me, she is the hottest girl on the block. At 168 centimeters tall, 57 pounds, and size 3 breasts, she has a body made for lovemaking. After all these years, I call her my fiancée because I continue to feel like we are still on our honeymoon. Anne said that when we met, it wasn't love, but infatuation. She couldn't wait to hunt me down. I, on the other hand, had just gotten out of a long relationship and wanted to slow down a bit. Her idea of slowing me down was to make love to me on the first date. We compromised, and she ended up in bed with me on our second date. We got married 6 months later and got used to the routine of working, studying, and once again working to make ends meet. Anne was a first-year teacher and made a lot of money, so I worked 2 part-time jobs while finishing college. A year later, I got my degree and got a pretty decent job. Money wasn't falling out of the sky, but we were doing well. After our 2 children were born, I was on top of the world. I thought it couldn't get any better, and that's when I first noticed a change in our relationship. A small change, but a change nonetheless. When you are constantly with someone together day in and day out, you sometimes don't notice small changes. They kind of sneak up on you and happen when you're not looking at them. Our love life has been fantastic over the years, but lately it has started to wane little by little. It was as if Anne had begun to lose interest in sex, if that was even possible. Who could get tired of sex? I thought. My wife could turn me on with just a look, and I was always ready for her to take me to bed. Even though she was a few years older, her body still looked great. Anne was a real screamer when we made love, so I knew she wouldn't make any noise when we had guests staying over, or if the kids were still awake. I made it my goal in life to be confident with whomever I was with. My partner should be the first to experience pleasure. The trick was to take your time and focus on what you were doing. After I undressed a girl, I would start with small kisses on the lips, ears, and base of the neck. Since my wife was a teacher, I knew that every semester at her job there was an open house and everything that went along with it. But lately, for some reason, there were more days like this than usual. Anne said that because of these events she had to do this or that, and each time she came home 2 or 3 hours late. When she came back, I'd ask her how it went, and I'd get the same general answer. You know, it's school stuff. They never change. I even offered to drive her to school and pick her up when it was over. Anne snapped back that I needed to watch our kids during that time, and if I took them with me, they'd go to bed too late, and so on and so forth. On Tuesday night, Anne announced that she would have to meet with several teachers after dinner on Wednesday and discuss the new testing data. No problem, dear. I'll take care of the kids and make sure they get to bed on time. With a wink to Anne, I suggested, maybe we can relax when you get home. I realized from the look on my wife's face that I certainly shouldn't get my hopes up. Close to Wednesday evening, I called Anne and informed her that I would have to work late, but I arranged for Carol to come over and watch the kids while she was at her meeting with her co-workers. She responded by telling me not to work too late and that she hoped to see me when she got home. My wife had no idea that tonight I was going to try to find out what kind of meetings she actually goes to. I parked in a not-too-distant lot, turned off my headlights, and waited for my wife to go to her meeting. Everything was going as smoothly as it could. After dinner, she got into her car and hit the road. Following her at a distance far enough away so that she couldn't see me, I drove behind her for about 15 minutes until she pulled into the driveway of a house we had never been to before. Or at least, I'd never been there before. Parking on the street, I waited for what seemed like an eternity. I wanted to give her enough time for the others to show up, but no one else showed up. Gathering all the strength I could muster, I quietly got out of the car and walked up to the house. Taking out a notepad, I wrote down the house number. Why? Because Who knows? I was new to this kind of detective work. With no real plan in my head, I approached the front of the house and tried to peek through the windows. Unnecessary curtains, I muttered to myself as nothing could be seen through them, although I could hear voices inside. I moved to the side, gradually making my way around the house, and finally ended up at the back of it. There was a pool in the backyard, and I saw that the sliding glass exit door to it was slightly ajar. I was lucky that the door wasn't locked, and I cautiously crept closer to it to get a better look. Oh, wow! Looking through the glass of the door, I see my sweet and faithful wife making love to a man I had never seen before. Who, that asshole? I thought to myself. It took all my strength not to barge in, put this guy down, and drag my naked cheating wife to the car by her hair. Thank God, reason slapped me in the face before I did something so stupid. The dude was 6 feet tall and must have weighed at least 110 pounds. He would have sprawled me on the floor in a heartbeat, and then, what would I even accomplish? At that moment, I realized that my marriage was broken, and all I had was the raging anger inside. I don't know which one of them I hated the most, watching them ruin my life. All I could do now was find a way to make them pay dearly for what they had done to me. I looked up again. After looking around and making sure no one could see me, I moved close to the open doors. It would be really stupid to get caught right now, I thought. Looking around once more, I looked at the pool and the dark backyard. When I looked closer, I was struck by the children's toys lying around. The bastard was married too. He and my wife were destroying not one family, but 2. Everything these 2 were doing was getting on my nerves now. It went on like this until Anne screamed, "I love you, Nick!" Now I had a lover's name. "When are you going to leave your husband?" the asshole asked in a mocking tone. But Anne remained silent. She was living in her own world now. I went from utter disgust to hatred for Nick. "Payback is what you're going to get, Nick, and I'm going to make sure you get what's coming to you," I whispered to myself. By the time the love scene was over, I could see them both lying on the floor, enjoying the relaxation after sex, when Anne looked at her watch. "Look at the time. I've got to get out of here." That was the signal for me to make a hasty retreat so I could get home in time to get rid of Carol before Anne showed up on the doorstep. Quietly slipping out onto the back porch, I ran to my car. Jumping in, I started the engine and drove with the headlights off until I rounded the corner. To say I was angry would be an understatement. The only thing I felt for my wife now was hatred. I did everything for her. She didn't need anything. And this fool shows her love for me like this, all the while acting like a prim and proper wife and mother. I wonder what her family and friends would say if they saw what I've seen for the last 45 minutes. No matter how long it takes me, I will have my revenge on both of them. I rushed home. Carol had changed the kids and put them to bed before I arrived. After seeing her off and thanking her for watching the kids, I checked on the kids and made sure they were asleep. Then I went down to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of wine, and waited for Anne to show up. About 30 minutes later, I heard her car pull into the garage. My wife hurriedly entered, apologizing for being so late. I inquired about her meeting and where it was held. "Nick, our principal, decided to hold it at his house instead of at the school," she replied. Pushing her for more details, I asked how many people showed up. "Oh, there were 7 of us from the teaching staff," she replied in a calm voice. I asked my wife if she would like a glass of wine, but Anne declined, explaining that she was very tired and just wanted to go to bed. I immediately gave her an inviting grin, but she stopped me. "Not tonight, darling. Maybe tomorrow," she said as she walked up the stairs to our bedroom. I watched her carefully walk up the stairs, as if she had a broom handle shoved up her ass or something. After waiting a while, I went upstairs. My wife was splashing around in the shower. I searched the laundry basket and found her dirty clothes in there. Going through the rags, I pulled out her panties. There were obvious signs of recent sex on them. Deciding that I would probably need them to confirm Anne's infidelity, I took them downstairs, put them in a Ziploc bag, and hid them in the garage. When I returned to the bedroom, Anne was already in bed. I undressed and lay down beside her. As soon as my body touched hers, my wife instantly pulled away and said she needed to sleep. I didn't get much sleep that night. Everything I'd seen in that house kept rolling around in my mind's eye. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. But I suppressed the feeling. Now I would have to hold back and be very careful. I have to have confidence that she doesn't suspect that I know what a cheater she is. My last thought before I did fall into a restless sleep toward morning was that if Anne had come home and told me everything, we might still have a chance. But now I felt nothing but disgust for that lying cheater. The next day at work, I began to formulate my revenge plan. Determined to completely avoid any possible unnecessary publicity, I contacted a lawyer in a neighboring town. As a second step, I hired Dan, a private investigator, to follow Anne and film her escapades. I downloaded the photos from my phone to my work computer and emailed them, along with Nick's address, to Dan and my attorney, then changed all of our bank accounts. For the next month, I was a typical good husband. I was always in a good mood, took care of the kids when their mom went off to make love to her lover, and paid all the expenses myself without letting Anne know the accounts had been changed. And I stopped approaching her about conjugal sex like I'd done in the past. Turns out that didn't even bother her. She seemed to be getting everything she needed without me. 6 weeks later, everything I wanted was prepared. All the money was now transferred to new accounts registered in my name only. I left some dollars in the old joint account. Dan, my detective, had a new video prepared of my wife and Nick making a storm of love. Dan had taken the same approach I had. He was, of course, a professional at what he did, and the video even had sound. I made 3 copies and sent one to my lawyer, along with Anne's panties that I had hidden that evening. Now I was ready to put my plan into action. However, there was one point I was bound and determined to realize before I divorced this fool. I was going to have sex with Anne again. On Friday, the kids had asked to spend the night at their friend's house, so there were no distractions. I had prepared in advance, including having handcuffs to fasten my hands to the headboard of the bed. After putting the dishes in the sink after dinner, I took Anne's hand and told her I had a surprise for her upstairs. I blindfolded her, which by the way made my wife horny, and led her into our bedroom. I laid her on the bed and began to remove her clothes. Anne only now realized what I was getting at and tried to sit up, but I firmly pushed her back down. "Just relax," I advised my wife. "We're going to try something new tonight." With those words, I lifted her arms and cuffed them to the headboard. This was clearly not what she was expecting. "I don't like this," Anne said in a concerned voice. "Just relax," I repeated, "and go with the flow, darling. I was going to get everything I wanted tonight, and I didn't care. I even came up with a catchphrase for myself. Tonight, cheater, you were mine." Quickly undressing, I approached the headboard of the bed. I made love to my cheating wife, and afterward I told her good girl, and with those words I collapsed on the bed next to her and just enjoyed what I had just done. "You need to take these cuffs off my wrists. They're cutting into my skin," Anne demanded. "Wait a minute. I need to remember where I put the key. God, I hope I didn't lose it," I grinned. "You're an asshole, and you better not lose it," she replied. I took the key, unlocked the cuffs, and tossed the cuffs on the dresser. "What got into you tonight?" she asked. "I just thought you might like it if I added a little spice to our lovemaking." "You liked it, didn't you?" I sneered back. "I'd never imagined you as, how shall I put it, kinky? You've always been habitual in bed," she said almost gently. "Well, Anne, you just never gave me the opportunity to experiment in bed." With those words, I got up and went to the bathroom to wash my face. After that night, Anne became much more attentive, and it had been over 2 weeks since her last encounter. I even thought that maybe she had dumped her lover and we had a chance. But my last hopes were dashed when she soon announced that she needed to go to another meeting. She said she needed to do this in order to release the school progress reports before Thanksgiving. I didn't care if it was a real meeting or not. It just triggered all the anger that was building up inside of me. I ended it like I ended my wife. The next day, I went to work and checked my schedule for the rest of the year. There was nothing urgent, which meant I could take my remaining 2 weeks of vacation and get the kids somewhere far away after the garbage hit the fan. I had arranged in advance with a transportation service that, on my call on the right day, they would pack Anne's things and deliver them to her parents' house. The day everything was going to fall apart, all that was left was to settle the matter with Nick. Nick, as it turned out, had been married for about 6 years and had a young daughter. His wife worked as a secretary at one of the small law firms in town. Although I wanted to get back at Nick, I didn't want to get worked up over his wife, whose name was Sue, and their young daughter. Upon reflection, however, I realized that if someone was having sex behind my back, I would want to know about it. The next day at lunch, I went in to talk to her. I explained to Sue that my wife works as a teacher at her husband's school and that I needed to talk to her about something important in private. And it would be best if we discussed it outside of her office, somewhere private and out of earshot. Sue agreed. We grabbed a couple sandwiches and sodas and sat in the back seat of my SUV. I started off by saying that this was the last thing I wanted to do right now, but I figured there were a few things about Nick she should know. "What are you talking about? Is there something wrong with Nick?" Sue got worried. All I could answer her was this: "Judge for yourself, Sue. Check this out." I put the DVD into the portable player. There was no preparation before going into action. The video just started with my wife having sex with Nick. The clarity of the sound and picture was excellent and left no room for imagination. Sue just stared at the screen with her mouth open until I stopped the video after about 10 minutes. I was shocked to see she wasn't crying or screaming or anything like that. I think for a second I was actually scared for her. Finally, in an almost dead calm voice, she asked, "Is that my copy?" I told her it was one of 3 copies I had made. Sue told me that she had never suspected anything like that. I was particularly struck by her confession that the whole time the lovers were making love downstairs, their daughter, whom he was supposed to be taking care of, was sleeping upstairs. I inquired as to what she planned to do now, but she mumbled only, "He'll pay. Oh my God, he'll pay. He'll regret the day he met me." I made up my mind and told her what I had planned for Anne. After listening, she grinned. "It's evil, but I like it." I apologized for being the one to bring her such hard news, but I knew she would want to know the truth. We exchanged phone numbers. Sue thanked me and went back to her office. All I can think about is that the poor asshole will never know what really happened to him. The day before Thanksgiving, I told Anne that my parents were asking if the kids could come over because they knew we planned to be with her parents and family. Anne replied, "No problem. In that case, I will have you all to myself." I just smiled. Thanksgiving at my wife's parents' house was an event. The whole family gathered and the house was filled with people cooking or watching the big game on her dad's new high-definition TV. I limited myself to 2 glasses of wine because I wanted to maintain clarity for what was about to happen soon. I planned my exit right after dessert and coffee. Finally, dinner was over. While everyone was relaxing, I announced that I had a home video I wanted to share with everyone. My still wife looked at me with a shocked expression on her face. I explained that it was a cute home video that I wanted to surprise my lovely wife with. Everyone clapped and moved into the living room, trying to get good viewing seats. Anne took me to the side and gave me a little good-natured whisper. "When did you have time? That's so sweet of you. I really do love you." All I could reply was that she should hurry after everyone else so she wouldn't miss a minute of the movie. I slid the disc into the slot and, taking the remote control so no one could stop watching, pressed the play button. After the first few frames, everyone as well as Sue froze with their mouths wide open. The silence was broken by Anne's scream. "Stop that tape!" But I didn't. Crying, she rushed into the kitchen with her mother, who rushed after her daughter in hot pursuit. Her father came up to me and said, "I think we've seen enough." I silently handed him the remote. After that, it further looked like someone yelled, "Fire!" because everyone present grabbed their outerwear and, without saying a word, left, without even saying goodbye to their hosts. I warned my father-in-law that a truck with all of Anne's belongings would be arriving soon. "Son, I know you're hurting right now," he began, "but this is no place to hang your dirty laundry." And I gave him a look that would have frozen a glass of water 20 feet away. "You don't know anything about how I'm feeling right now," I exploded. "Would you like to see a tape of your wife having sex with another man? If your daughter hadn't been cheating on me for the last year, there would be no need for this movie premiere, would there? You can tell her that I changed the locks on the house and that the kids and I are going on an extended vacation. And I don't want her to call me. I just want her out of my life." I didn't mention anything about the fact that the joint bank accounts now had $5 each, and I had cut his daughter out of my individual retirement plan, health insurance, and life insurance. Anne walked out of the kitchen. Her mother gestured for her father to leave us alone. "We need to talk," began my ex-wife rather shyly. "About what?" I interrupted her. "About how you had sex with me and then Nick? How many other lovers have you had? How many others?" "Only Nick, and that was a terrible mistake," Anne answered me with tears in her eyes. "But I know we can get through this together. I'm sorry, girl. I feel nothing but contempt for you now. I treated you like a queen, and this is how you repay me? I hope you really enjoyed making love to Nick, because I think those dates are over for you too. By the way, you can keep the video as a souvenir. I told her that Sue, her lover's wife, also has a copy of the tape, and I don't think I would want to be in his shoes right now." Anne cried again, but I had nothing more to say to her, so I just left. As I pulled away, I see a van pull into their driveway with Anne's stuff. This was going to keep their whole family busy for the rest of the day. The next 2 weeks were just great. It felt like a huge weight had been lifted off of me. I told the kids that their mother and I were divorcing, and that they would now be living in the house with just me. I informed them that they could see their mother, but not as often. I don't know if it was because it was a vacation where we were having fun, or if the kids just hadn't fully grasped the change that had happened, but they seemed to be just fine. As for Nick, he had some major bad luck. Sue got a court order against him and effectively locked him out of his own home. She dumped his clothes on the front lawn and then turned on the sprinklers. Unlike her, I at least packed Anne's things. Sue also sent a copy of the tape to the local school board, complaining that parents don't understand how they could hire a dishonest asshole to oversee their children's education. Nick and Anne were quietly fired 2 weeks later. I was the one who thought I was the tough one, but Sue was able to give new meaning to the term cold-blooded fool. After the kids and I returned from vacation, things came to a head. Anne didn't contest anything in the divorce and moved out shortly thereafter. She still keeps in touch with the children, but at a distance, through cards and letters. Nick and Sue's divorce was ugly at best. Turns out Anne was one of the many people they cheated with. Nick had to move in with his brother because now he couldn't even afford to rent an apartment. Sue and I became best friends. Our kids have also become friends and play together. And yes, you could say we are almost a couple now. We're both a little wary of moving too fast, but I can see the sparkle in her eyes when I walk into the room. I don't think it'll be too long before I find out what kind of wife Nick gave up. The end! Subscribe to my channel! Thank you.